Welcome back. And Eric's going to take us through the NHL, but first I'm going to give two news tidbits as it pertains to the NHL. Todd Reardon of the Caps has been ousted after 2 seasons not making it out of the first round. Should you have maybe paid Barry Trotz? Me think so. Kasperi Kapanen of the Leafs was actually traded back to Pittsburgh in a 6-player trade, who actually drafted him first round in 2014, so they're going to get him back and give him another chance. Toronto will be walking away with Pittsburgh's first-round pick in that trade, so that's kind of where we go from there. That is my news. Eric, take us through the series, man.
Yeah, Toronto, fucking, let's not even talk about those bums. I want to get going right away on that Avs-Stars series. Stars are up 2-0, the Colorado Avalanche. James, I know you've been kind of covering this series. I want to hear what you got to say about it.
I think the Stars are rolling right now, man, and I think they have all the momentum. The Avs, honestly, it looked like they've been punched in the gut after they lost Phil Grubauer, and that's a big loss for them. Right now, my prediction is that the Stars win in 5. Like you said, the Stars are 2-0 right now. The Avs are a really good team, but right now they're not looking like it. For Tyler Seguin finally scored his first postseason goal in game number 1. And I said that last week that the Stars were gonna do well and they were gonna beat the Flames if the goaltending got back to what it used to be, and that's exactly what happened. Kudobin's been killing it recently. On the Avs side, the 2 big injuries is Phil Grubauer, their best goaltender, and Eric Johnson. Those 2 huge players, and they're filling that in with Pavel Francouz.
Joe Pavelski. I thought you were talking about the Stars. You're talking about the backup goalie for the
yes,
Avs?
I am.
Francois or some shit like
Francois, exactly. He's 30 years old, and he's played in Europe forever. He's only played in the NHL for 2 years. But his career save percentage is .923. It didn't show it in Game 2, though. So that's why I think the Stars will take it.
Yep. Sorry, I jumped the gun there, and I mentioned a guy named Joe Pavelski. Trayden, tell me about Joe Pavelski.
Dude, Joe Pavelski, I think, is one of the elite leaders in the NHL, and I think that is a prime reason why the Sharks are not who they used to be. He came into this. He came into this team and has made a difference. He didn't start out very strong, numbers wise, but he's the type of player that's been there. The Sharks have been kind of perennial playoff teams, so he's been there. He knows he has the experience, and he's going to bring that with him. And he's a huge part of why they're doing so well, among others.
Yep. And one last thing to mention about that series, Corey Perry has gone into full rat mode like he always does every year in the playoffs. You could see last night he was getting under a lot of those Avs players' skin. And I think, he's doing exactly what the Stars need him to do in this series.
Absolutely. What I think is also interesting with this series, real quick, if you don't mind, this series has 2 of probably the top leading MVP candidates for the playoffs in Miro Heiskanen and Nathan MacKinnon. Miro Heiskanen is the only defenseman in the top 15 in points. He is tied for second in the NHL scoring race this postseason as a defenseman, and he's one of only 2 in the top 20. And he has 5 more points than any other Star, and he's dominating his own zone. So I think if you see the Stars win the Stanley Cup, Miro Heiskanen is going to win that Conn Smythe for sure.
Hot take right there. Next series we want to get into, Lightning versus the Bruins. We are tied 1-1. Tyler's so-called Stanley Cup contending Bruins that he thinks will win this year gave up a couple greasy goals tonight. Ended up tying it up with 3 minutes to go. The Rat Marchand, of course, got that goal to get him tied up. But then they were finished in overtime by Andre Palat. Tyler, let me hear what you got to say about the series so far.
Yeah, I think this series overall is, the best and closest matchup series, of the semifinals. And we see it so far, tied 1-1. Boston won game 1 by a goal. Tampa Bay won in overtime today. So I think it's going to be a close one this whole series. I think it goes 7. Obviously, I picked Boston to win the Stanley Cup, so I'm going to pick Boston 7 still. It's the battle of the NHL's best offense against the battle of the NHL's best defense. Tampa Bay with the best offense in the league showed it today. They can score anyway. And then Boston with the best defense. Obviously, Tuukka Rask, we mentioned before, out. Halak led in that third goal today that probably shouldn't have gone in. But I still think that he's a solid goaltender for them. Tampa Bay playing without Steven Stamkos, I think that's going to be an interesting thing going forward. And Tampa Bay has also kind of had Boston's number this season. They won 4 out of their 5 meetings in the regular season. So even though the Bruins didn't lose a whole lot, they did lose a bunch to the Lightning. So I think the Lightning knows how to beat the Bruins. I think it's going to be a hard-fought series. That being said, I still think Boston pulls this one out. But this is the series that I'm going to be watching the most just because I think it's the best matchup.
Yep, and Traden, the Lightning got past your Columbus Blue Jackets. Unfortunately, I was rooting for the Blue Jackets too, but they seem today, they look like just how they did in that series versus the Blue Jackets, full puck possession, beating them down on the boards. What do you got to say about it?
Yeah, depth for the Steam boys. They are a strong team. They play a very interesting game in that they can be very flexible in how they play. They dominate the puck, they dominate the inside, and they use their depth to their advantage. Oh, and by the way, can we talk about how amazing Victor Hedman is? He is he continues to show that he is the best defenseman in the NHL. I mean, he has the whole package. There's no one better than Victor Hedman right now. There's no way. Victor Hedman shows it on the offensive side, on the defensive side. He is so smart. He is one of the best defensemen in the league, and he is going to be huge. They made a huge push in the last game. He scored those 2 goals for Tampa. I mean, watch out.
Yeah, speaking of being defensively minded, the New York Islanders bum rushed Alex's pick, the Philly scumbag Flyers, 4-0, I believe, in Game 1. The series is 1-0. We got Game 2 tomorrow. It does look like it's going to be hopefully a good, interesting series. Alex, let me hear about it.
Yeah, that final score was not quite indicative of what that game actually showed. The Islanders did shut the high-flying Philly offense down for sure, but it was 1-0 through 2. Carter Hart, the Phillies netminder, did give up some iffy goals, I would say, for sure. But, we were talking about the Conn Smythe earlier. If Philly goes on, Carter Hart is the Conn Smythe winner for that Philly team. Varlamov, 29 save shutout in Game 1. That's impressive. He's a veteran goaltender. So far in these playoffs, he's 8-2 with a 1.5 goals against and a .941 save percentage. If Varlamov continues to play that well, I don't think the Flyers actually do have a chance, which is a total bummer. Granted, I did pick the Flyers when I assumed the Islanders were not going to go through to this second round. But yeah, there was an empty netter. There was a couple iffy goals given up there by Carter Hart, but Carter Hart has played generally pretty fucking well so far in these playoffs. I do think because they're my pick, I'm going to stick with the Flyers. I'm going to stick with Gritty. I'm going to stick with those ugly-ass fucking sweaters they wear. This one is also a very interesting series. It's kind of the same thing what Tyler's just saying. High-flying Philly offense between just a rough and tough Islanders team that's just going to wear you down defensively. I'm really interested to see how these games continue on.
Yeah, and the Flyers, that game, I believe it was 1-0 until about 4 or 5 minutes left when then all those sloppy goals came down. So, yeah, it was way much of a closer game than 4-0. But I believe Kevin Hayes is the only one of those top 5 seasonal goal scorers they've had to even get a playoff goal going for them. Traden, what do they need to do to pick it up versus this Barry Trotz, like we mentioned earlier, in his defensive-minded Islanders?
I think that you need to outcoach them in terms of getting your guys off of the ice when the Islanders' first line is on. Because here's the thing, and it was interesting is Barry Trotz actually he didn't care for the Islanders' play. Their second period was was a bit weaker, but this is the type of games, and we're gonna assume it was a 1-0 game, right? Because the other 3 goals were whatever garbage time I would call it. The Islanders win 1-goal games. That's how they do it. They grind you down. They swallow up the middle of the ice, and they take up the real estate. they swallow you up completely. Giroux, Voracek, Couturier, as you said, they didn't get anything going. Kevin Hayes was the most prominent, but he couldn't do anything. It seems like it was just a big lock between the top lines, and I think that's all the Islanders need to do. They just need to wear you down. It's the most boring hockey. It's so frustrating being on the other side. I've been there, but also being on the Islanders side, it's very effective. And eventually, the Flyers are going to start taking penalties. They're going to start becoming chippy. That's when the Islanders will take their strikes. I don't see the Flyers unless the Flyers can figure out how to score a goal, for Christ's sake. The Islanders are just going to continue to swallow you up.
Yeah, and you're talking about swallowing, and I would rather spit on the Vegas Golden Knights, who are in a series right now with the Vancouver Canucks. And thank God this series is tied 1-1. Let me get in to the whole gist of things. Canucks shocked the world by actually winning a series in the first round, especially versus St. Louis Big Bad Blues, who looked pretty bad. You got to hand it to the Canucks, though. They did take care of Jordan Binnington. They stripped him down to his street clothes with their high-powered offense, just kept scoring goals on him, threw him to the bench, threw him aside. But this game one of this series, Vancouver lost 5-0, and they got straight beat down. Their high-powered offense was high-powered jack shit. Vegas ran the show, and after watching that game, I was just like, fuck, because I bet $50 more that Vegas would lose this round. So I'm already in $50 of debt. But, it seemed like they weren't going to be phased after that game. You saw that rat, Antoine Roussel, used to be on the Dallas Stars, well-known rat of the league. He wasn't even a pest at all that game. Reeves was balking at him like a chicken on the bench. It was pretty embarrassing for Roussel. And then when they were down 4-0 to start the third, he hugged Reeves and grabbed him and pulled him aside like he was going to kiss him on the cheek. Jones at the intermission was like, this is the point where you fight, even if it's Reeves and he's going to beat the hell out of you. You do something to show your team, let's wake up here, let's get moving. Thank God, though, today, 9 seconds into the game, ex-LA King Stanley Cup champion Tyler Toffoli scores a goal, assisted by ex-Stanley Cup LA King Stanley Cup champion LA King Tanner Pearson. Toffoli 3 points tonight, Pearson 2 points tonight. How are you? Performing in the playoffs like they should. Great to see Vegas lose tonight. They were down 4-1 in the third. Traded. What the fuck? Is Vegas gonna just come back and pounce them? And I hope they don't. But knowing them, it's gonna be they come right back from this.
Look, after game one, I thought it was kind of set in stone. But the Canucks are a strong team that react very, very well. Going back to the first game, it was utter domination. I mean, Besser and Pettersson didn't even record a shot. Knights managed an 18-6 advantage in the slot shots. They were dominating in the middle of the ice. They were taking up real estate and winning that game. And then you have Antoine Roussel, who's trying to be a pest, and he actually looked like a fucking dumbass. Ryan Reeves made him look like a complete joke. Ryan Reeves recorded 10 hits as a fourth liner, by the way. What a game. I love Ryan Reeves. I don't care what anyone says. I think that he, on any other team, you guys are loving if he's a king. I'm telling you right now. And what I noticed that the Canucks did is they played down to the Vegas game. The Vegas will penetrate you through the middle. They will transition well, but they will also play a heavy game. And the Canucks, that's not their game. They are not built for that. So when you drop down to that, the Vegas Golden Knights are going to pound you into the ground and hard, and they did. So I asked the Canucks, I said, okay, I didn't ask them legit, obviously, but I said, you guys need to not fight the bullies and just win with your speed and explosiveness. That's how you win hockey games. Case in point. Look what just happened. That's how you beat the Vegas Golden Knights, with more speed, with more explosiveness. Don't get into the shit. Don't try to fight them. And I actually disagree with Jones in that fighting Reeves probably would have made it worse. And I'm pretty sure that, and I agree with what was said on Sportsnet, Brian Burke, he said he probably got taken aside by the coach or the general manager and said, look, Russell, you're admirable for what you're trying to do. We don't fucking need it. It doesn't help. You're making things worse. And we could have seen another game like we did, but no, they come back. They use their speed. They use their explosiveness. Their high-powered offense, and they get it done. And, unless the Golden Knights can respond by being that much more dominant, we're going to see a long series.
Yeah, we got to mention that Markstrom was solid tonight. He kept them to one goal until about 2 minutes left in the third. They got a trash, pulling their goalie, a little trash goal to make it 5-2 final. But you got to give Markstrom the credit. And, we'll have more hockey for you guys next week, of course, when we come back.
Hell yeah, we'll have a better understanding of who's going to be in these next series, and guys, I'm excited. We're getting hockey every other day, these teams, and I think we're going to get a couple back-to-backs pretty soon this series, if I'm not mistaken. So stay tuned for that.